can you just explain for those who are new to the insurance world, what's this inside versus outside super and default cover and group cover and all that?
Yeah, so most super funds will set up a default level of cover for their members. If we're talking to the retire-right community, it'll be relatively small amounts of cover on a default level because it does decrease significantly as you get older. But that default level, the super fund will provide for you. Now, if you go and set up your own individual policy, you can do that, direct to some insurance companies. But you can go through a financial advisor and we can help set it up. Now, the benefit of going through an advisor is an advisor can help set it up so your super fund can fund a lot of the premiums, can be really tax effective way of paying your premiums. But the policy is linked to you as an individual and not linked to your super fund. So if you do move super funds over the next 5-10 years, then you can maintain your insurance policy.
So the reason I want to chat about it, it's stuck out to me because I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Because you can set up a policy with a financial advisor that is often, and I will say more times than not, more cost competitive than increasing cover through your super fund.
Yep.
A stronger quality product in terms of benefits and definitions. And then you've got personalised help if there's a claim or any stuff like the jury is out. Personal retail cover in this climate is usually more appropriately priced and featured, even with the built-in commission that goes to the advisor to service the policy, than going to your super fund for additional cover. Jury is out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what quotes Colin got.
Well, here we know the exact reason because he originally said, I looked at alternative provider for income protection, life and TBD recently. Can you see his blurb there that I copied?
Yeah.
There. Much more expensive than staying with the current super fund. And I thought, it's very odd that it would be more expensive going to an alternate provider than the super fund. And basically, this is what I'm going to read what Colin said and then we'll unpack it just to help people understand default cover and additional cover in super. We had a bit of a chat and you can just research Colin or truck driver in the Facebook group and you'll find this. Glen James, I remembered why it's so different. My existing policy occupation is rated as professional, quote unquote, and the quote from Suncorp was truck driving. So I think that would account for the increase. I tried to change from professional to blue-collar occupational risk within my superannuation insurer, but they advised by email that it was not necessary unless I increased the amount of cover. So I'm covered sufficiently at what I considered a very fair cost. The professional risk rating can save people a lot of money over time, and it is not automatically applied, even if you're obviously in a professional role. May be worth mentioning. Cheers, Colin. So do you see what's happening there? Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to assume that Colin set up the policy with the super fund when he was in a more professional occupation.
Can we maybe just talk industry for a sec, just so we're on the same page?
Yeah.
The default policy set up, professional, done. Called them to increase and they were basically like, well, we've got to do professional the truck driver rates, or went to another provider and go, no, you're a truck driver.
Yes, yeah.
You can't change the occupational rating on the default cover because it's default.
Well, no, I think Colin tried to change the occupation rating and they said you don't need to unless you increase.
That's right. So you can't change it on the default, but if you increased within the super fund, that increased portion would be truck driver.
No, I think what they're saying is you don't have to change.
Right.
You can change the default to blue collar, but you don't have to because your policy is already in place and it was set up as a professional occupation.
The group policy,
The group policy,
yeah. Okay.
Moving to a higher risk occupation over time, you don't have to update the insurance company. But the insurance, the group cover said you will need to disclose that occupation rating if we go and increase it.
The group cover did.
The group
yes,
cover,
that's what I mean. Yes. Yeah. So how do you explain what's happening here? Because initially we're not talking apples with apples until we got to the bottom.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so what's happening here?
So with insurance policies, when you set up the cover, it's based on the occupation you're doing at the time you set up the cover. And so if you set up and you're an accountant, you set up your policies, and then you go and become a truck driver, you don't have to tell the insurance company that you've changed occupations. They'll still base the claim as if you're a truck driver, but the policy will be priced as if you're an accountant. Now, if you go and increase your cover, they will ask your occupation again at the time you increase your cover and will rate the whole policy based on your new occupation. So what Colin's done is he's compared the truck driver premiums
of the new policy
with Suncorp. He mentioned Suncorp.
Yep.
And then compared it against the professional occupation of the group default cover.
Yeah, which is not apples for apples.
Correct.
So that's why I perked up and was like, hang on, much more expensive than staying with the super fund. But if Colin had default cover of 300 grand in the super fund and went to the super fund, who wasn't Suncorp, which was Australian Super here, and said, I want more cover inside the super fund, that additional group cover, would they occupationally rate that?
The whole thing would be assessed under that truck driver. Yeah, would be.
Okay, and that's
so
what I wanted to know.
The whole pricing would be gone.
Even on the default cover, they would change the default cover.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So all that to say, when you see sweeping statements like this online, that's why I had to check. I had to just like, ooh, it doesn't sound right. Don't take advice from a podcast or even this podcast or a Facebook group.
Or a Facebook comment.
Or a Facebook comment. You need to get your own advice based on your own situation, because things can get lost in translation and people get scared off. And it's just a really good discussion here based on what are some of the things that impact the cost of an insurance policy.
Yeah, so I mean, just to round off this thing with Colin, like it's actually good that the super fund didn't let him change the occupation.
Yeah.
Because the insurer could have said, great, we'll update your occupation to truck driver now and charge your premiums accordingly. But he didn't need to. And you actually don't need to when you're with your insurance policies.
And some insurance companies and group policies may not insure certain incomes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So truck driver is, if not the most, one of, I would say, top 5 most risky jobs to do in Australia. I think you've got underwater mine clearance diver, truck driver, and plumber.
Yeah.
Because you can get a lot of turds. Nah, I don't know about plumbing. But so it's very nuanced. So talk to us about what makes the cost of an insurance policy.
Yeah, cool.
The main things.
Yeah, there's a few things. So things like occupation is a massive one. So professional occupation versus a truck driver will have, as Colin noted, massive discrepancies in premiums. It's not because one insurer is worse than the other, it's because of the occupation. The other thing is male and females have different rates for different types of policies as well. Now, if you're a smoker or non-smoker, that'll have a really big impact. The level of cover, so if Colin's gone and quoted with another insurer and said, I want $1 million and compared it against his $134,000 with the super fund, well, those premiums will be massively different as well. So there's a whole bunch of things that comes into play. Other things like health history, medical history, family medical history may come into play. So you may get a loading on your policy for something that is a family health history. So it didn't happen to you, but that can actually increase the premiums or can add an exclusion on your policy. Right. So there are a lot of things that have an impact on the cost of cover. And so, it is easy enough to go and do quotes online, and you can find insurance companies that will allow you to do quotes online, but only until you apply for the cover and get accepted will you really know what the end cost is. And, if they increase the premiums between the application and the policy being accepted, they've got to let you know what those increases are. But there are a lot of things that can have an impact on your cover.
Yeah. Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.